looking through. I was like, okay, maybe he's done some podcasts before.
Yeah, you're in for a treat.
No.
Train wreck.
Train wreck. What are you talking about?
It could be. Hopefully not.
Nah. So I was looking. I was like, maybe he's done some podcasts before. I was looking through, and I was like, all right, I'm not really having any luck here. So I went to your Instagram and just stalked the living crap out of it.
Also not too impressive, but
so if you get like a report that's like an email that's like, this user has visited your Instagram, 200 times in the last 24 hours. That's probably me.
All right. All right.
All right. So I just want to make sure I'm saying this right. It's Poulin,
yep.
Correct?
Pulling something. I think. I don't know. Maybe I get that so often. Maybe I get it wrong half the time now. But I tell you, you're pulling something.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. I've had a few people on here. I just butcher their names, and I mean, I'm known for that. Okay.
Yeah. So. Some podcasters, man, that I couldn't even do it, man. I anything that's more than a few syllables, I'm like, I'm out. Sorry, but nonetheless. But anyways,
right.
Actually speaking, I think I saw your Instagram. Speaking of that, and I think you were just busting out 15-inch handstand push-ups or so.
Yes.
It was I'll
man.
take some of that.
So I it's interesting, when I started kind of with this podcast thing, how I look at this podcast is like, I love talking, okay, and more than talking, I think I love getting to know people, and I love building, relationships, and from operating two gyms and all of those things. Like I really do just love people, and I think this was just kind of like a really cool thing. But I obviously have a very different side of me, which is a very competitive, I want to beat your face inside of me.
Yeah.
Which I don't show on this podcast.
I know, that's what I was about to say, that you don't see that too much, but hey, maybe we can dig into that.
But yeah, because it really doesn't have a place, and I mean maybe it does, but I don't think I don't think it. Obviously, I'm not trying to be a star of a show, right? It's ultimately, this is the Matt Poulin show. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe we'll do a role reversal one time. We'll switch it up, and then we'll interview you for your own podcast.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of the deal there. But all right. So, Matt Poulin, how old are you, bro?
I am 25. I'll be 26 though in a few weeks.
A young buck.
You think so, but not really anymore in the game, man. All these 22-year-olds, I'm like, am I getting too old for this? And I feel like you don't hear that too often from a 25-year-old. But
dude, you got plenty of life. I mean, people are doing it till they're 33 now.
I know. I think I remember that too. It's like, you still got people out there in their 30s. So
yeah,
you're right.
And I mean, people that are like good. I mean, not just like they're getting 40. Yeah. Like they're like competing. So I was as I was scrolling through, just doing some major stalk status on the Instagram. So you're obviously married, or at least you call somebody your wife. So
yeah,
I'm assuming.
Yes, married. Like I said, you said earlier how you just love talking to people and getting to know people. Like you and her would get along just fine, because she's the outgoing one in a relationship. I'm outside of my shell here right now, but I'm trying my best to make her proud though. So yeah, she loves people, man. Her heart for people she's the best person that I know, and that's true. And that's truly honest. I don't know. I started talking to her, and I'm like, man, I do not think it gets much better than this when it comes to human beings, and so I think I'm gonna lock this one down. But she's incredible.
How did you guys meet?
yeah, I usually let her take the ropes and have her always explain the story, but I guess it's my
She's
turn
not
now.
here. Yeah.
Well, in a little bit, maybe we could have her, hop on. But anyway,
Yeah. Guest appearance. I love it.
so
Let's FaceTime
it
her in.
was. Let's see, it going on 3 years ago or so, but we just had I don't know if you're. Where are you actually from? Where are you located?
I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. I lived in Raleigh for North Carolina for 5 years, but Birmingham is where I am now.
I just more like to get the demographics of things to know that I went.
Yeah.
It was at a Cody Johnson concert, so I don't know if you know
who that is.
Kojo is. Okay.
I know who that is.
But it was a crazy thing. It was like I had a few friends we were going, and she had a group of friends, and then we had the story, the mutual friend that we know there. So we all kind of just sat next to each other at the concert in the middle of June in Oklahoma. So good old 99 and humidity. It was that was bad. It was outdoors, but then I see this one lady over there, and who obviously I knew she knew my friend, and me being myself, not the most outgoing one, but I don't know, for some reason I just could not take my eyes off of her. And you would think, I'm sure, Matt, you just went up during the concert and you asked her to two-step or something and you guys hit it off. And I'm like, nope, that's not how it went at all. I just continued to stare at her for the whole night until the concert was over. And that was it for that night. But luckily I knew this was back when we were still in undergrad. So I knew she actually went to my school. So he just did the good old, 21st century thing of hopping on Instagram and found a name, reached out. Hey, how'd you like the concert? And then I guess the rest was history from there. So
you slid into her DMs.
Yeah, I know. I hate that detail. I'm like,
no, it's okay, man. That's how my wife got me. I mean,
really?
She slid straight into my DMs. She was a savage.
I guess we'll look back on it in 10, 15 years, and that's the norm. That'll be the norm.
100%. Yeah, we're gonna scan our retinas with each other. It's gonna be hot as hell, man. It's gonna be sexy. So and this was there we go, 8 a.m. on a Monday morning.
There we go.
Right.
Waking, yeah.
All right. So I was really fascinated. So and this kind of is starting to play a story in my head now because so you tell me the story of the Cody Johnson concert, and then I look on your Instagram, and I think this was you, pretty sure, but you were in it looked like a cowboy hat to me, maybe I don't know what they call it, Western hat, whatever. At your wedding, I was like, dude, that is badass.
I guess at the wedding.
I was like, I guess that's what you do in Oklahoma.
That's what you do. Oh, yeah, that was her, my father-in-law, who's also awesome, her dad. Man, we get along really well. But I think it was a few years ago for Christmas. We did an individual, you draw a name and you do this cool little, obviously like a Secret Santa, but you had to make it cool kind of thing.
Yeah, you gotta make a good gift.
Making it more. The experience was the cool part. But anyways, his experience for me was I think he got me the hat. Obviously, it was the gift. But he tied it up in a box. Essentially, I had to beat it down like a piñata. But also, I kind of had to be careful though, because I'm like, there's something in here.
You don't, yeah.
And but anyway, so he got me that cowboy hat a few years ago, and I've always wanted a felt cowboy hat, and so luckily we got married in a time where I can wear it, and yeah, looking back at the pictures, it came out pretty well, and I was pretty happy. But that's what we do in Oklahoma. We always wear.
Go ahead.
Cowboy hats.
As soon as I saw that picture, I was like, man, you know what really just comes to mind is that song. I think it's, oh man, all the real country fans are gonna hate me. I think it's a Toby Keith song. That song Should Have Been a Cowboy.
Yeah.
God, that's a good
there
song,
we go.
Man.
He's from here too, right? I don't know if you knew. He's from the city, from Moore. So yeah, he's that city's about 15 minutes from where I'm at. But,
okay, yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was awesome. I'm all for fun weddings.
Statement piece. You always need a statement piece.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be rememberable or memorable. I don't know if rememberable is a word, but memorable is definitely a word. And that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was cool. So now I have a question. When you were kind of getting or the process, your engagement process, and even before getting to know her, you're obviously very much into CrossFit, right? I mean, obviously, I mean, you didn't just get good at CrossFit, and we're going to get to the CrossFit part for everybody listening, right? Was she a CrossFitter, or did you kind of convert her to the religion, or what was the deal?
Yeah. So that was back. Like I was only a few months into like CrossFit, taken seriously at that time.
And when was this?
So yeah, I think this would be back in 18.
Okay,
I think it was like, because I used to play college ball, and so my senior year of college was done up that spring, and then I kind of just hopped straight into CrossFit. But nonetheless, I have a personality of things. If like I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it legit. So like the first week of doing CrossFit, I was like, I think I remember watching the one of the fittest documentaries, and then there's like essentially saying CrossFitters are in the gym 2 to 3 times a day. So I was like, all right, or CrossFit Games athletes. So I guess I'll do that. So I was just randomly in there 3 times a day, just doing random things. But nonetheless, went to the same gym, and this is in I wouldn't say like little town, Oklahoma, but it's Oklahoma. There's only 4 million people here, but smaller town. And so the gym itself wasn't too big where we were at. But she would always actually come and get dragged by her friends in like the 5 to 6 a.m. classes, which I was never about that whatsoever. But then I would like be there the rest of the day until it closed. And so it was kind of funny because we technically went to the same gym but never saw each other. And also she was like super popular in like college, because it's still not even like a big. It's OBU, Oklahoma Baptist University, so it's still not even that big. But she's just the type of awesome person that just knows everybody, and kind of thing. But so she was so surprised that she never saw me on campus either, and so it's like we were literally in the same places all the time, but we actually never saw each other. So nonetheless, she also tells a story that, like, I was never much of a talker, and so this is an evolution of what I was coming on this. And so she would tell me that she would always, the only way she could hang out with me, like, and I'm not thinking of this back then, but was that she had to force herself to come to the gym whenever I was there, like all the time, which was whatever, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and that she would just always have to find herself at the gym, and that would be our hangout time because I was just always just doing random things. And so she would explain that story of like, it would be that, and then we'd go home, or we'd go back to my apartment in between sessions, and then I would just watch The Office and roll out. And that was our quality. Friends. That was our quality time for about a year, and then
Netflix and chill, guys, but maybe not like that. But Netflix and chill. It's
a Baptist school. Come on.
Exactly. Look, it's before 10. We're keeping it PG.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that was about it. Our hangout time would be in the gym or watching The Office, and then she cultivated me into more what I would consider a talking machine. But that's it's still not very impressive to most people.
So, just so I get the timeline right. Right in my head. No, you're good. No, I'm just making sure I understand. Was she going to the gym that you were at prior to meeting at the concert, or during that time, or was this after the fact that she was like, oh, this guy's cute?
Yeah, it was before she was going. Like, I think this gym was like right across the street from campus, which you'd think a lot more students would go there, but weren't many. But she was into doing CrossFit before that concert, and then before we started kind of just working. It wasn't even like we're working out together, sadly. I was a little selfish. It would be like we're just working out next to each other. Like, I'm going to do this, and then, but yeah, she was not like, it's not like she just started going across the gym after we started talking. Like, she's been going for a while, and like, so she played college volleyball. So she kind of used it as a training tool.
I got
you. To prep for that, so.
Okay. All right. So I'm with you. So the gym really was just like a furthering of you guys, like, relationship. And then
yeah. I never thought of it that way, but if you look back on it, we would not have spent as much time together if it was not for that gym. So, but
so yeah, there you go.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So in 2018 is when Is that when you found CrossFit?
So I played college baseball, and then I played football in high school. So like working out's been in my my life.
You've always done it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Since like 8th grade. But as my career, right, as that kind of started coming to an end, or more towards my senior year, I got so tired of just doing the same all the time. So like, going in doing 3x10 or 4x8 accessory work, all that. Like I did it so long, got so bored, and so like the word I've seen CrossFit. I think one year I still remember being with my dad in the living room, and I think it was like 14 or so, and that's back when ESPN was putting on the games for that day or so, and so I think it was like Froning going for his 4th in a row, and obviously as someone who has no idea what they're doing, you're like, oh, I work out, I could do what they're doing. That's nothing impressive, but anyway, so I saw that CrossFit, and so like then I had the imprint in my mind, like, okay, that's like another way of working out. But you're always told as a baseball player, they're going like, no, do CrossFit. It's not good for your shoulders, right? It's not good for all this.
Don't get too bulky. Okay.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I was ready to try like once baseball was kind of over. So that's kind of what happened. Is I think it was a winter break, and I went back home for winter break, and I just stopped in a CrossFit gym, just like, hey, let's try it, like. And like first class, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. And that was even before I knew you could compete in it. I just knew there was that natural competition of in the class anyways, but I was like, oh, this is still cool. And it's like every day is different. I'm not doing the same thing. That's awesome. And then so I was kind of like ready. Like once baseball was over, whenever that was, I was like, okay, like I love competing. So I think CrossFit's going to be that next thing. And so I kind of hopped in straight from baseball, straight into CrossFit, which was back in 2018. So,
were you pretty good right away?
I'd say in CrossFit, I would say, like being a baseball player, just you require a lot of like just more of that skill, like kind of tool belt per se, and so it was easy for me to pick up a lot of things, like people like. For me to learn butterfly pull-ups, I think took me like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, I get the concept. I get that. Okay, you just kind of move your body this way. And so that I think that kind of having a baseball background helped out with like some of those more of those upper skills in it. But obviously there was still so much more to do. But yeah.
As you just said, you learned it in 20 minutes. Everybody on this podcast, listening to this podcast, instantly hated you. Yeah, well, maybe if they saw my butterfly pull-ups now, they'd be like, you didn't even learn them. What are you talking about? But so you obviously knew people could compete in the sport of CrossFit because you mentioned that you watched it on ESPN, and you obviously saw they were competing. But for you and your competitive journey, when did that become a realization that you wanted to compete, or was that kind of from the jump? You said, "Hey, man, I'm doing this to compete. I'm not using CrossFit as a lifestyle or a methodology."
Yeah. So I would say I always have this funny story, and I'll try to keep it short because my wife tells me I have a problem with getting too into details.
This is the Matt Poulin podcast. We don't freaking want it short.
Yeah.
We want the long, unedited version.
So. This goes back. So let's go back. I think so summer of 2018 is when I started, and so I remember, like right off the bat, I go in and I see something on the board of regionals. So there's a guy in our gym who was pretty good before me, but he was leaving. I think he was going life journey, just going somewhere else. But he was good enough to where like regionals was something he was competing for. Like he was that good. So like that, the regional thing was like, or theme was already in the gym, and so I was like curious. I'm like, and this is like a few weeks after doing CrossFit. I'm like, what's that regionals thing? And then coach was like, yeah, it's this, and you go to the games if you do well enough there, but you have to go through the open. So anyways, I'm like, okay, and it was about a year out until the 2019 regionals, and so I tell myself, tell my coach, the gym I went to, that, hey, I think I want to go to regionals next year. Like I got a year of training. Like I'm only doing this for a couple weeks. I think a year of training could probably, I could get pretty good in a year. And so we go through that whole year, just kind of, get more familiar with how you should actually do this and how you should train if you want to do it. And sadly, right, that was also, I think that winter right before the season started was when they got rid of regionals and they went to sanctionals. I was like, oh, well, that stinks. But anyways, went into that open. So that was my first open and that was also the year we did like 2 opens in one year, I think, right? It was like the 2019.
It was
yeah.
like a February and
that,
an October. Weird.
Yeah. So I think maybe it was that February one was my first one. And so we go through the whole thing. I do pretty darn well in it. And then so right after like the last workout, my coach he told me, he's like, hey man, a lot of guys can't, like that takes years and years of practice to get to regional, man. Like that takes 3 to 4 years. Like I don't want you to get burnt out. Just a nice way of saying, hey dude, don't. That's
it's not happening this year.
Yeah. And so anyways, going to after the final workout, week 5, and we sit down and we kind of look at the overall standings, and he's like, you know what? He's like, I was like, what? He's like, you would have went to regionals if we would have had regionals this year. And it was just always fun. That whole year I used that as like fuel when he said, man, I just don't think it's really possible or anything. And I think that open I finished like 76th in the world or something. Like it was like for the first open, I guess not pretty that bad. But it was just always funny that he was like, you can't do this, dude. But then, that fuel for fire just always. Anyways, I don't even know what the question was, the original one, but that was always.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was good. That was a great answer. I don't
know if that was a good answer. I think it was everywhere, but
no, it was genuine, and I think that's what makes a good answer. It's very interesting this evolution, because what I've found from talking to a lot of elite high level athletes is that whenever you tell an elite high level athlete they cannot do something, they immediately want to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're all the same way. I've never found one that's not that way. That's like, oh yeah, you're probably right.
You're probably right.
It's interesting. It really is. It's interesting that you say that. It's interesting that you saw that. And I want to make sure I heard you right. You said, and I don't really care to fact check it, but you were top 100-ish in the Open. Was that my understanding?
Yeah. Like that was something that I think at the time I didn't really know what it meant, and it didn't really mean anything right back at that point, but. It was something
still good,
something quantitative that you can calculate. And I was like, oh, that was really good, I guess, actually, in the end. But especially for like the first Open, going through those 5 weeks, not knowing what to expect, and just kind of, I don't know, it was good experience.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna dive into that. So, all right. At that point, excuse me. At that point, did you want to? Because let's see, sanctionals. Let's see, that was the sanctional year. Did you go to any sanctionals that year?
No. So yeah. So I'm trying to think. I'm not getting those timelines straightened up. It's kind of difficult. So that was 18 going into 19. Because it was sanctionals were like for 2 years, right? Technically, was it? No, 19 and then 20 is when they kind of stopped. So nonetheless, I think I tried to do my first sanctional I was going to do was getting ready for the qualifier for Granite Games.
Okay.
Back in, I think the qualifier for that would have been in 2020.
Yeah.
Anyways, right. Yeah, but I was training hard for that. I was like, I wanted to go elite. Like, let's do this. I want to go with the big boys. And it was like a week before the qualifier began was when the COVID thing hit, and then so I had this shut everything down. I was like, dang, I trained so hard for that. And then I explained to people I kind of had my my white Goodman phase on dodgeball at the very end, where I was like, oh, what do I do now? And so I kind of got a little pudgy, stopped working out so much. I'm like, this just got disheartened. I was like, oh, I did all that work and for nothing. And then so I always look at it as like, with the COVID, I just miss being able to like get into the high end kind of competitions, like just because of that. Like I kind of delayed me back a year, I feel like, because like my first this year going to the West Coast Classic was my first like big competition, and that was like my first experience at that, and so I think the COVID thing just kind of stalled me back like a year. So I was planning on going to a few sanctionals, but it just never panned out.
So in that time, were you training? I mean, obviously you mentioned that you went through your what Goodman phase, and I understand that. But were you training? I mean, was there something in your head that says, "Hey, man, I'm, I've done pretty well in the Open. Like I feel like I was going to do pretty well in this sanctional." Was there any of that, or did you just were like, I don't like? I mean, I guess was there ever a point where you're just like, I don't know if I want this anymore?
No, that's good. And I guess when I say I went through my white Goodman phase, I was still working. I was still working out, but just the intent was not there because just no one knew what was going to happen next, and especially if you're not already that established kind of games athlete, where things are going to happen for you, right? You're still kind of that up and comer. You just didn't know what was going to be the next thing, and just also, but that also trying to balance. Like I said, not a lot of us are able to actually do this full time, so we're not able to balance, or we have to balance like work and school and all those things. And so it's kind of like, well, if I don't know what I want to do here, then I guess I got to focus up on some other things for now. So I always I never stopped working. I never stopped training. I was that intent of continuing to keep competing and moving forward. But obviously, when you don't have a specific kind of, I don't want to say goal because that's not what the word, but if we don't have a path set, it's hard to kind of train with intent and to whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? You're kind of in that little limbo. I feel like I was in that limbo phase of just kind of staying fit enough or trying to get stronger just enough, and until something popped up or until COVID was over. So
you mentioned something about obviously there's very few people that are able to do it full time, right? And make it their job, make it their living. I mean, it sounds like to me you train a lot. Do you just have a job that's flexible, or is this something that you're trying to put all the chips in on?
Yeah, I'm pretty. Like I said, I think keeping priorities in your life is super important. Like if you and me and my wife, we sit down often and we just kind of say, hey, what are our priorities right now in the season? Like, what do we focus on? What do we put on the back burner for now? And so unless I'm currently right now, I'm a supervisor at UPS. Super excited. No, it's been a good. It pays. So I also am in graduate school still, so it actually pays for my grad school.
Oh wow, which is you're in grad school. Holy cow.
Yeah, I got a lot on the plate. But so the thing with UPS is that everything works in shifts. So it's not like your typical 9-to-5 job. Like you got to think. And when I say UPS, a lot of people ask if I'm a driver or in that thing, or you see the driver of the brown truck. I work in operations, which is I'm in charge of managing the people and the packages that get into those in the cars. Like, right, they got to. I'm in the process of traveling them all the way across the country, so they got to get to places first. So it works in shifts. Really shorter, depends the day, it depends the volume, right, how many packages we get. So every day is a little different, but to 5 to 6 hour shifts. But I can be supervisor, you're there earlier, making sure everything's all going well. But so that job has allowed me to have some flexibility with training. So I'm able to train in the morning for a decent amount, and then when we're done, train in the afternoon. And so, when it comes to, like you asked if the end all be all is to try to go full time an athlete, it's so hard to say. I feel like I don't know, people give you the answer yeah, that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do, but I'm like, man, that's so many things are out of your control on that. Even if you do super well, it's if it's not, I don't know, if you really think about it, to make an income on just sponsors and then you got to go win these things, not just show up. It's a lot that goes on to it. The ones who are able to do it, I give them a lot of credit, but it's kind of those things hey, if the opportunity is there, then we'll reevaluate it, right? We'll go their priorities. Do we want to do this for another, for another 5 years or so, or can we still balance both? Can we still do the work, and can we still, train? And right now I don't have the option. So right now I got to do both. So I got to.
Yeah, no, that's so. there's two things I want to hit on. I want to talk about training schedule, and then I want to get into grad school a little bit. But so you mentioned that you train twice a day. I mean, are those, because I know everyone, like people that listen to this typically like to know the details. I mean, are those 2-hour sessions, those 3-hour sessions? Like, what does total training volume kind of look like for you every day?
It's so obviously me being new to Brute, I'm getting used to a new training methodology.
We're gonna get into that.
Oh yeah.
Come on, don't.
So
look at you. You're teasing them. You're teasing them, giving them a little preview of the remix.
A little carrot. Yeah, there you go. But so I just got out of we call it training block per se. So now the last few weeks been getting into normal training, and I've been finding myself, man. I'm working with Coach L, and he's pushing me. He's pushing me hard, which is great. But like the 2 sessions. One's typically a little shorter, but still takes me a few hours. And then that afternoon session's taking me 2 to 3 hours sometimes. It's a lot of stuff, but it's good. And I know I'm getting better, like when I'm doing it. But so yeah, it's a lot. We're in the gym, man, 4 to 6 hours, depending on the day, a week, each day. It's a lot of time.
So grad school.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What are you going to grad school for?
So I'm getting my MBA. So my father-in-law, my wife's dad. So let me back up. I guess I got my undergrad in math. I'm a math major.
You're smart as shit, man. I love it.
In math. You tell me to write a sentence, it's gonna have 5 errors in one sentence. But I was like, I should have paid more attention in English class. I was like, if I like the numbers, but and so I didn't have plans to go to grad school. It was kind of like, I wanted to be an engineer. Let me back up before in undergrad, but with playing baseball, it wouldn't allow me to do it. The labs you have to take. So I was like, I like math. I like the numbers. I was like, I'm sure you could find a good job with a math degree. That's pretty hard. Like, not many people get that. It's not an easy degree until you graduate and you're like, hey, you can go teach it, and that's about it. I was like, oh, okay. So I was actually a math teacher for a little bit right after undergrad.
That's amazing. What grades you teach?
6th and 7th.
Oh, I call those the puberty grades. The worst.
Yeah, it was a little bit of some, and then some it was still like right before. Like they haven't hit it yet. But you thought it'd be really easy to be the cool teacher, with just
nope.
At that age, and it still was. They didn't. So I had a buddy who taught science across the hall. I still talk to, and he's like, yeah, it's the classic. You don't know what you got till they're gone kind of thing. Because they're like, man, we miss him so much. He was so cool. Like I had a little basketball hoop in the classroom, and so like before every quiz or every test, I was like, hey, I'd pick like 3 students, and I'd shoot for points. So I'm like, how many ever we make, or if we make, I'll add 5 to 10 bonus points on this test or quiz, or just something cool like just to do before. And they would all think it was kind of lame, and then until they actually got a math teacher after them who was just talked and whiteboard, and that's it. Like I tried to make it fun, man. That's the thing. I know math gets a bad rap, but it's like if you make it fun for the kids, like that's your job as a teacher, I guess. But nonetheless.
Good dude. I would have liked you. Good dude.
Yeah. There's some moments where I might have gone a little too far with things, but it's over. It's in the past, so they'll look back at it they'll have good memories of it. But nonetheless, sad part is here in Oklahoma, teaching salary is not the best, and so with me, me and my wife were dating, and then I think during that time I got engaged to her, but we were just more evaluating and things. I'm like, man, I can't. More down the future, you can't be the breadwinner on a teacher's salary. Like if I'm the breadwinner at this point, because she's in grad school too, like it would just be really hard to survive on that. And so my father-in-law was like, hey, why don't you? He's the one actually talking me into UPS too, because he's been there for 30 plus years. Like he's a sales manager at UPS, and so, but he worked his way up, working in the load and getting your butt kicked every day kind of thing, worked his way up to where he's at. But he's like, hey, go to UPS, they'll pay for your school, and then after you're done with school, we'll reevaluate if you want to stay there or not, or at least you got your. So I get my MBA again. Sorry, I'll get to the question. So,
Wow.
so essentially, yeah, management business administration. I just thought it'd be something that kind of transfers over pretty well to any kind of well, it's just business, man. That's how the world works too, right? You just like, there's a lot of things where they don't teach you in school, right? Taxes, finance, account, all those things which are boring if you don't like them. But man, that's what you got. You got to know it. And but so I've been balancing that. I still got a little bit on that though on my MBA. Probably got another year plus, but we're chipping away at it.
I mean, is that tough? Obviously, you said you're not working a full 8-hour shift. Maybe you're working 5-6 hours, but then you got 5-6 hours in the gym. I mean, that's 12 hours right there. You have a wife, and then it's grad school. I mean, that really sounds like a lot.
Yeah, I think it goes in seasons, especially with work. So yeah, I'm lucky that I'm not it's not like a clock in, clock out kind of job, right? You're not there 8-9 hours a day. It's kind of more go in, get the job done, and then you can kind of get out, which is nice. But you're right. Like I said, I'm waking up. Sorry.
You're good.
7, 8 a.m., which is nice. I don't have to, and I also count that blessing too. It's not like I have to start early enough in the day. My shift starts later in the day, so I don't have to work out 5-6 o'clock in the morning, right? Because that's tough. That's really hard, especially if you want to change with intensity. In the AM, man, it takes me an hour just to stretch out at that. But so that's nice. I still get decent amount of sleep, but yeah, I'm gone from say 8 a.m. and then working out, work, go back to work out. I'm not getting home till 8 p.m. So I'm gone 12 hours, and then you got to get home, and you have some grad school work to still do. Or above that, you have a marriage you still need to prioritize, and making sure we're always still getting our intentional time, and that we're still good. That's good. And she's crazy busy too. She's in her grad school. She's in MFT, so marriage family therapy, grad school. And so going through talking obviously through the process of what she has to do to become a licensed therapist is it's borderline being a doctor, man. It's obviously 4 years undergrad, 3 years graduate school, and then you have 500 hours of practice hours. So you have to see 500 obviously for free. You're not getting paid for that, but
wow,
just how much they have to do, it's crazy. And she's super woman, man. I have a lot on my plate, but she also does too. And then she's incredible. But so we're both kind of just drowning every day, but we still kind of come back in the end and just touch and make sure we're okay, because that's the most important, is making sure that we're good and our relationship is good.
I hear this a lot from people that they, for better or for worse, they're talking about, they're contextualizing hard things. And a friend of mine and I were talking about this, some Joe Rogan clip. I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan. I think some of his stuff is great. Some of his stuff is aliens, deer hunting, and conspiracy theories. So, whatever.
Hey, I'm all good about the deer hunting.
Yeah, or elk hunting, rather. But anyways, something that is a clip that came up, and he was talking about hard things, and he was talking about the reason that people do hard things, and how I love this, that it was a reset on life. And I think here's kind of what I'm hearing from you, and kind of what I've been hearing from a lot of people lately, and it's just kind of tying together, is what's so interesting to me is I think the reason, when you dig down into it, the masochistic reason that maybe we do CrossFit or jiu-jitsu or these things that are very physically demanding and tough, and this is kind of what the clip was outlining, is because it is a reset. It is a factory reset on life. When you do those hard things, it gives you a perspective that and otherwise you simply cannot attain or grasp. Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because what you're describing to me is hard things. I mean, it's you're working long hours. Granted, I mean, you're choosing to do CrossFit, but nevertheless, it's still long hours, and you're putting in the work at home. You're putting in the work at school. You're putting in the work at work, the thing that pays the bills, that pays the rent every month, so to speak. And I'm just fascinated by people that do hard things. I think it's a reason that obviously, I'm competitive and I have a competitive mindset, and I know so do you. But when I really peel the onion layer by layer, I think the reason that we do hard things is much bigger than just simply standing on top of a podium or receiving a check. It's more than a podium. I think it's a perspective, and hard things can provide a perspective in which I think it's very, very, very difficult for any other thing that we do in life to provide that same perspective. And I think for me, and I know a lot of people, I think CrossFit checks that box. And anyways, I know that was a little bit of a random tangent, but I think it's important. And I think it's important that people hear that, because there's not a lot of people talking about do hard things. I just don't hear that message a lot. It's like, hey, be comfortable.
But I think furthermore than that, understanding what those hard things are doing for you. So like it is, I think you could blindly follow a really hard schedule, right? You could blindly just go in each and every day and do really hard things, but also not have the perspective of understanding why you're doing it, or what it's actually what it's cultivating in the future. Like you can go in every day and say, hey, like me and my wife, we are every day we are grinding very hard. And we can easily just kind of go through the motions every day and just say, yeah, we're grinding. But then we step back and we reevaluate. We talk and we're like, okay, what is this going to help with in the future? Especially, so just off, for example, what we're doing hey, you're just managing your time well. So like, yeah, we're crazy dying right now, but guess what? When we want to have kids down the road, or so, well, that's another thing we have to manage. And so this is something, okay, I'm learning how to do this now so I can then be better down the road for when my priorities change and say we have kids. We both love kids. Like I cannot wait for us to be a dad and for us to have kids and all that. But it's just not our season right now. Like, so we got to get through school and all those things. But it's just knowing why you're doing these hard things. Right, and understanding what it's creating down the line. It's just learning. It's learning from your experience. I think is really important on what you touched on, of doing the hard things. Because I think if you just go and doing hard things, you not know why you're doing them, then it's kind of for nothing. I feel like.
There's that verse that I really like. It's without purpose a man perishes, or something like that. Something of that nature. And I think that's a really I think, it's funny. My wife and I were lying in bed last night. We were talking about this. She's a big talker in bed, and I don't mean that weirdly.
No.
I'm just saying, like, as we're lying there, she just likes to talk a lot. And I'm just like, I want to go to bed. Anyways, and so we were on this subject about purpose. It's so interesting that we're bringing this up today, because we were just talking about this. And I think it's really good, whether it's CrossFit or whether it's your job or whether it's whatever it is in life. I think you need a purpose. You need something worth living for. And I think everyone's is different. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this is yours and this is my. It's just, I'm not the judge of that. But ultimately, I think if you're listening to this and you're just like, I'm just going through the motions, and for what you said, I mean, that's essentially what you said. It's like, hey, if you're just going through the motions just to go through the motions, if you're just doing the hard schedule just to have the hard schedule, almost posturing in a way, like, it's not going to work. Ultimately, you're going to get burned out and you're going to feel like shit.
Like it's not fulfilling. And you're right, exactly. Everyone has different, essentially just value systems. Or maybe some people haven't really evaluated their values, so maybe they don't know what their values are. And I think that is something that is very important to have a fulfilling of life. Because like I said, I always tell people, because I'm still, I feel like everyone's always looking for, right, the classic phrase, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I think that has so much, as I get older, like, truth to that, because I feel like that's such a blessing to have in life, is to do something you love doing as a career. And so, like, my wife, she gets to do that. Like, she loves people and she loves loving on people, and specifically kids. She wants to work with kids who go through some trauma, and so she's gonna get that opportunity, and it makes me so happy that she gets to do something that she loves. I'm still kind of in that limbo spot. Like, I don't UPS for me. Like, it's been good to me, but like, that's, it's not what I want to do. And so just finding that thing you want to do is so important. Some of us are blessed to get that. Some of us are not. But if not, you need to have your value systems in line to help fulfill like what that is that you want. Like to not have, say, something to fall back, not have that identity, right, in yourself, like what you believe or what or how you want to, say, cultivate your household in a way. It could be detrimental, like you say, you could go through a life that's not fulfilling. And so I think being able to sit back and reevaluate it and to have someone to, like, luckily we're both married, to have someone to where we can both kind of cultivate those values and those belief systems together is something that's really important, that I think a lot of people who haven't done that before, be a really great tool for them to just kind of like, hey, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? And to challenge those beliefs sometimes too. Like, definitely, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't challenge our beliefs, and to challenge them to get perspectives on other areas of life, other people's thoughts. Like, there's so much value in that. And that's something I strive to do, like, every day, to find the meaning, I guess to seek the meaning of life and truth. That's something I love doing, but it's also a good tool to also to pass on to others and to learn from others, or to also give guidance and I don't want to say, just give guidance to others and in that area. And so, but nonetheless, you're right. Like, just finding that purpose, the value, like the values that you want to cultivate is very, very important for the soul. Yeah.
I said this last week, and I've said this actually the last two podcasts that I've done, and I think it's a reflection of something that I've been thinking about a lot, is that as humans, we question all of our beliefs except the ones that we truly and really and deep down believe in, and
that
those
takes a special person to do that,
and those we never think to question. And I think that's powerful. It's not just believing it; it's why are you believing it, and having the purpose and the guidance behind that. So, anyways, but I could do 3 hours just on this topic, and I want to get to CrossFit. Yeah, I can tell you're passionate about it.
It's funny, we haven't even gotten there yet. Yeah, or really not.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it, but not really, because I think this stuff is. Because I think it's not to be cliche, but it really is. It's the meaning behind the man. I think people, sure, they're gonna relate to thrusters and pull-ups because we all do them. But I think what people really relate to is struggle, is the things that we're all, exactly, those experiences that we're all having in our own unique ways. And I think that's what's special about life and what's special about getting to do these podcasts. But as you kind of looked going into the 2021 season, the season structure changed. We get these things called semifinals, and then there's a intermediary step between the open and the semifinal called the quarterfinal. Going into 2021, did you know, hey, I'm going to qualify, or at least was that the goal, qualify for a semifinal? Or maybe what was the goal? Maybe it was go to the games. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're I'm trying to think when it's, like I said, back when we touched on, I was in that limbo spot, just looking for the next thing. All right, how was the season going? How are we going to kind of come back from COVID? Like, what's the season going to look like, right? I think we're all kind of there. And so whenever they dropped that news of, right, this is the format of the year, open, quarterfinals, semifinals, games, kind of just stepped back, talked with my coach / so not L, but like my gym coach / he's more kind of like my, at this point, he's kind of like a CrossFit life coach. Like, he's always there checking in on me, just asking if I have any questions, what he can do. But anyway, so I reevaluate with him, and we're like, okay, well, it looks like that a semifinal is going to be pretty similar to a regional kind of thing. And so going in, my goal was, okay, I think my goal was to just make it to the semifinal. Like, that'd be really cool to do one of those things. And because I think if you did the math, it's just you had to be top 120 in North America. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've gone on my past open, like I've been able to do that in the world. So I think that's something that's manageable. And just going through the open, right? Knowing it was kind of tough not going in the open, knowing that, your scores had to be good enough, right? Like it's not like there's anything riding on it. So there's some times where like I didn't get a good score on one. I was like, oh, I'd really like to redo that, but I'm like, yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
Not saying and it matters to some, and then that's totally okay. But like in the end, is it worth beating myself up another time to do it? Probably not. So, but then we get to the quarterfinals. That was fun. That was good. That was a good time. They had a lot of people, the front squat hurt them, man. Like that's like the one thing I'm good at, because I was a catcher and playing ball. So like I was in a squat for 20 years. So like for me, squatting is like my best lift. And so doing that 4-rep front squat, I was like, oh, that's a good one for me. But so went through that, and through the quarterfinals, was able to, I think going into the last workout, I was top 10, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I get to see my name up there with the big guys. But then the heavy barbell came, especially a snatch, and snatch is something I struggle with. And so that dropped me down a little bit. But I think I ended up finishing quarterfinals like 20-something, 25th, I think, in North America. And so I was like, oh, we got in pretty well. And then, but then that was cool. We got to then choose. I was like, well, you did well enough. You could probably get to choose where you want to go. And so that was a big old, strategy thing of like, where do we want to go time-wise? Because also my gym had a team going. And so I actually did the quarterfinals for the team for them too. So I was like, the next week I just had to redo the whole thing again for them.
Yeah, you helped them out, gave them some good
that was
scores.
Awesome. I love doing that. Was so fun. I love doing that. And so, but it was more like we wanted all to go to the same semifinal. That was super fun. So luckily, we were able to go to the West Coast. They went there. I went there, and that was super fun. But I guess back to your question, what was the goal? So my goal was a semifinal, but it was kind of fun. Like once we saw, after quarterfinals were done and we saw the standings and like how it all went, I was like, well, screw it. Why not just go for it? Like you're this far. Why not just go for the top 5 spot? And obviously had all that intention, but it didn't work out. But it was still like, it was kind of funny. It's like it's because I think a lot of people look back, oh, you're underselling yourself, right? Like you tell the people that you got to get those goals that like people are going to laugh at, all right? And I think there's a time and a place for that, but for a lot of times, let's have realistic goals that we can accomplish, and that doesn't mean we can't just up that goal or create another goal after that. So it's kind of just like a checklist, a little bit like a checklist. Like so once we checked that semifinals, we're like, well, we're here, so why not just – we're not just going to go through the motions of semifinals. We're going to go for it. And so, and then that's where we ended up with Las Vegas.
So you go to the West Coast Classic, and I said this on the podcast many times before, is I think the toughest women's field was the MAC, and the toughest men's field, no question, was West Coast. And I love how everybody answers it very – yeah, I'm curious. Yeah. What do you think it was?
Well, I think if you go off sheer, like, just accolades and numbers, then yes. Like, you had the most, like, experience. I think me and I worked out with a buddy with Brandon Luckett who made the games. We would train together before it. And so we were kind of talking, like, I think it was a total of, like, 14 guys have been to the games in that field or something like that. So if you look at it from that to your point, yeah, it's definitely, like, the experience-wise, like, I was definitely a spring chicken there. I'm like, what's going on? But yeah, it's interesting. It's all, I don't know. I think in the end you got to show up and still do your job. And so like any of them were, you could have said were the hardest. And you know what I'm saying? But if you have accolades, yeah, for sure. Get some really veterans there, a lot of veterans.
How did you hook up with Brandon Luckett?
So so he's been in Oklahoma for a few years, and he actually just moved back home, which was Louisiana, because he's doing his residency here for a few years. But it's funny, like he's been here in Oklahoma, Oklahoma for a few years, and we kind of always knew we were here, but we never like hooked up. We never trained together until it was time for after the quarterfinals and the semis, and I'm like, because that's where everyone's doing the talking of getting all these training camps going together, and I'm like, well, I was like, I'll just reach out to him, see if we want to work out together, yeah. And I was expecting him to like, because he's been to the games a few times, and no one knew who I was or my name, so I was expecting just kind of I don't know, I didn't know what I was expecting, you know what I'm saying? And so, but he gets back to you like right away. He's like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And I'm like, cool. And then so we just started working out together. Like we probably live 30 minutes away, and we lived that far away for 2 years, and we didn't hook up until like it was his last 4 months here in the state. And it was good. I learned a lot. He taught me a lot, learned a lot more on, because honestly, I didn't have at least some of his experience going into the West Godwin, even more lost than I was going there. But that was definitely nice to have him as a partner.
What do you mean?
Going into that?
Like, give me an example.
For the experience, like being lost, or you're talking about that?
Yeah, just like, what'd you learn?
I think it's a lot of the mindset. I think physically, right, we're pretty, when I say that with a grain of salt, you're pretty close to the same fitness level. Like, and that, yeah, anyways, take that for what it is. But we're pretty close. And it's just the mental side of things, man. It's just that, and that's what I tell people I learned so much about. It was everything I learned there was it was nothing physical. It was all mental on the little things that you could have done better, or that you let creep into your head that resulted in like an error in the workout. Like, it was nothing that physically you just couldn't do. It was more of just your brain in that time. And so he helped me more on the confidence side of things. Like, dude, he's like, everybody, like, you got to go in knowing you could do it, because you can't. Like, you look at what you've done, and like, you got to go in believing it. If not, you're not going to have a chance. And it's just that self-talk of having that self-confidence. But more and more, as you get on those bigger stages, it's a lot harder than you think to like tell yourself, like when you're out there with, Sager and Olsen and all the other big dogs of saying, oh, okay, I'm just as good as them. And then it was kind of like, it's hard to tell yourself that unless you've been there. And I think was this experience was like very valuable though too, because like it's, you reflect after the whole weekend of it, and you're like, well, you beat some of them on some workouts, so you're kind of there. Like you can hang with them, and like you're better at some things than they are too. And that was like more of a light bulb. Like, okay, you deserve to be here. You can be here. You can make it. If things line up well. And it was more that confidence thing. You had to go in like being confident that you can do that was a big thing. For me, I think what Brandon helped me kind of get over that hump.
It's interesting looking at your scores. So you finished 13th at the West Coast Classic, and looking at your scores, the first the first 4 events were like really good for you, right? I mean, you get 11th, 4th, 3rd, and 10th. And obviously, I know that when I say they're really good, I mean, I'm sure it's the way you look at it is, well, I could have done better, or I could have placed here, and I understand that. But it really wasn't until the back half of the weekend that you have a pair of finishes in the low 20s. Just curious, I mean, after those 4 events, or even the first 3 events, like what was going through your head? I mean, you kind of referenced it earlier, like, man, I can hang with these guys.
Yeah.
Like, was there that thought of like, man, am I going to do this? Am I going to run the table here?
Yeah. So going in, like, you had to know what type of athlete you are, and what you're good at, what you're not. And so for me, overhead stuff is a struggle for me. More of also, it's because like I've had an issue with my shoulder since my whole time. I tore my labrum when I was playing baseball, and so I got surgery on it, and I was able to still play college through it. But it's still like I had to get cut open. I still had to get some screws in there, and so I've always had that lingering in the back of my shoulder, so it's kind of restricted me on overhead things. So going in when it's actually the first event. I think it was the first and last are my worst finishes. The first event was the snatch one, which I like to go in. I'm like, okay, I knew I'm not going to do well here, and that was just more damage control. So I started off pretty, I think it was like a 20-something place with the snatch, which I kind of expected that. But then it wasn't until I think the next event was the rope climb one, which I think I could have done better. I don't think I pushed it enough, and that's I think I was a little too conservative, because legless rope climbs can be like, once they're gone, they're gone. So like that's a tricky game to play with.
It is.
But
playing
still,
with fire.
Yeah. And then so looking back in 11th on that one was like, okay, like I think it could have done better, but for your first, I'd say that was my first real event, I'd say, because at Snatch Ladder I was going in just saying, hey, just go till you can't, kind of thing. But so that was my first like real life competition experience of an event, which was kind of cool. And then I think the next one was the ruck run, which I'm good at running, and I knew that was gonna be a good one for me. And so getting, I think, fourth on that was cool. And then I also love chippers, and I was like, that's the next one. I'm like, cool. And then and it wasn't even until it was over I realized how well I did on that one. I think getting third, and I was like, because the whole time I'm like, you hear stories from other games athletes of saying they're always aware of their surroundings and who's where and what's where. And it sounds good in thought. But then for me, my first time out there, like the whole weekend, I'm just like, I was so tunnel visioned. Like I wanted to be aware of other people. I'm like, I got to take care of myself first. Like, and so I wasn't, so the whole time on that chipper, I'm just like counting down the reps, going down my paces. And then obviously that was paces well enough to do pretty well on that. And then it was like the handstand push-up workout, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and the deficit, like once again, like that overhead stuff's been a struggle for me. So that was also another damage control, but also I didn't realize how freaking fast guys were going to go on that one. Oh my gosh! Like I thought it would be like I'd be somewhat competitive on that, but guys were moving on those strict handstand push-ups. That's you would have done well on that one, man. You were just like your deficit on your Instagram one was deeper than we did.
Yeah, I wanted to try it. Yeah, handstand push-ups are my jam. If I ever can get those, I'll do pretty well. So guys, people listening, just so you can understand what he was talking about on the Triple G chipper. I mean, so he got third, and so he beat people that were named Cedric Lapointe, just people maybe that people will know. Cedric Lapointe, Dallin Pepper, Brandon Luckett, Will Morad, Sean Sweeney, Cole Sager. Guys, I mean this guy is no like joke. You may have not heard of him before, but we get people on the podcast that are making waves, and let me tell you, Mr. Matt Poulin is making some waves. So y'all just y'all just strap up for 2022.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, anyways, I gotta give my boy some credit where he deserves it. But so coming out of that weekend, you mentioned that some of the biggest separators in your mind weren't necessarily the physical ones, but though there may have been a couple, it was mainly the mental. Yeah,
but
exactly.
mental, you're right. No, it was something as simple as I think the work I did. I forgot was the quick little burner one, the finale one, the bike, burpee, and sandbag. And the D-ball
gnarly clean. Regional closer 15. Yeah,
that was brutal. Well, it was one of those ones where it's going to be horrible in testing when you test it, and then when you do it in competition, you're like, oh, I could have gone faster because you got all the adrenaline going and all that. Yep. But anyways, it was something as simple as I remember it was like I think it was my second to last clean to shoulder, and I just. Like they're 150 D balls, and you're just out of breath. Your body's shutting down because you went so fast, and there's my mind just slipped for a second. Like I just did not focus, and if you go back in the video, you could see it. I get the clean like halfway up, and I just it slips out of my hand, and in a workout like that, I missed a rep that cost me 6 to 8 seconds, and then I go back. And if you're like, hey, obviously woulda, coulda, shoulda, you say, hey, if I would have cleaned that, like that would have saved me like 6 spots on the leader, or 3 or 4 spots on the leaderboard. I'm like, that's 20 points right there. It's just little things like that. I'm like letting your mind slip, causing, especially in those quick workouts, like any little thing is going to cause a significant kind of stumble. But things like that, I was like, man, like little tiny mistakes that you're able to manage, and like that's part of the game. I get it, and that's why this experience was so valuable. Like, so this is my first big time. Like, obviously, you've done local comps, and you've had some decent local comps, but obviously nothing to this scale. And so, and that's why you give credit, man, to some of the guys. Obviously, Hopper and even I think Zach Watts. So like I said, these guys who went in on these. And I don't know if Zach's a rookie, but I know it's been a while since he's been able to get on a floor like that. But just for them to perform like that for their first time at that level was even like, it's easy to say it's really impressive, but then when you actually experience it, you're like, dang, that was really impressive. Because it's like half the time you're asking yourself, how do I warm up? When do I warm up? Like it's just a totally different. It's a totally different game of on that side, the preparation to each event, you know. But a lot of valuable tools that I came away with that made me excited, kind of going for this next year.
Did you have a coach there with you? Obviously, you mentioned a guy that was kind of at your gym, but did you have someone there with you, kind of like handling you, corralling you type of deal, or no?
Yeah. So my coach, like my past coach was my wife. And then
I love it.
Which was awesome. Having her there helped, like, just that comforting aspect before each event was very, I don't know, was something that helped me a lot, just to have her there, just getting to say good luck, and just she'd be the last person I see before I go on the floor. But then also, so my gym coach talked about, I think Zach Dustin, but he was the coach for the team, so he was able to go back there anyways. So I kind of had two first. My wife would take care of all the things I needed, like bags and all that, and Zach would kind of help me get warmed up for each workout. So that was nice to have both of them there.
So after the West Coast Classic, and I'm trying to fill in the blank in my mind, when was the switch? When did you make the switch? Because obviously you're with Elle now.
Yep.
When and how did that come about?
Yeah, so, you know, it was so after that weekend, kind of sat back down with Zach and reevaluated of saying, hey, where should we go? Like, it was actually even a question of, do you want to keep doing this? Like, it's because I was actually going into this year, like, this was this past year was, I kept telling myself, like, this was just kind of my last ride. Like, I've just been, you know, I thought it was time to kind of hunker down on other things, like careers and work and school. So this was actually going to be like my last thing. I was like, hey, let's just go out. Let's go have a nice experience at a like semifinals, do something cool. And it wasn't until, I guess, obviously after of going through the weekend was like, like hey, you got one shot to chase your dreams. And so like, let's make it happen. And so that took a while too, like seeing if that was a thing, texting down my wife and saying, do we want to prioritize this for a few years? Because it's a lot of work, like not only obviously for myself, but for her.
Everybody
around you.
A lot of
sacrifice, man. It is, like I said, that is true. When they say sacrifice, it's a lot of sacrifice. Like that's 6 hours a day in a gym where you could be with your wife, with other people in your community, and so can't take those things for granted. But so once we were able to, you know what, we talked to my wife, and she was also my huge supporter, and like she was like, hey, let's go chase a dream. And so then I started reaching out, like, you know, if I want to do this, I need just, I won't say better resources, but in a way, I need better resources. Like my coach Zach was like, hey man, and he knows so much, and he's done so much for me. But he even himself was like, hey, I've been out of it for a little bit when it comes to like this level, and I think you need to go out and get someone who's done it before and can help you, lead you to what you want to get. And so kind of reached out to a few people here and there. And I mean, yeah, Matt Bruce was like, I reached out to Brute, and he got back with me to my surprise, because I was like, I don't know, I'm just reaching out to people. I didn't know if anyone would know who I am. And so he got back to me, we chatted, and so I was like, you know, I think this is like their mythology, how they go about things, how they invest in their people was something I'm like, those are a lot of values that I also hold. And I think it's going to be a really, really good fit. And so, and also I got lucky. I think Nick was at the West Coast with Dallin.
Yep.
So he kind of, I think, I remember Matt saying, yeah, Nick was there and he saw you and he was pretty impressed. And so that was also a blessing. So I'm like, well, shoot, if he's not there, then like he probably doesn't know who I am, and maybe this thing doesn't work out. So that was kind of cool, that coincidence that he was there. And so, yeah, about a month after, like, hey, let's, after taking a little bit of a break, like, let's go with Brute and let's get this thing started.
Yeah, man, Elle's a good dude.
Oh, yeah.
I been with Elle for 2.5 years.
Really?
Yeah, long before this podcast. Yeah, this podcast.
Yeah, well, and then I hear him. I've listened to your guys' podcast, and so I hear him talk, and it got his perspective on it is I don't know. I like his perspective on like what it takes and on how he views it from his viewpoint is something that I can I don't know, correlate with well.
Yeah, he you know, and I think you nailed it on the head. It's about having the right resources. It's not just about doing the work. Everybody can, most everybody at the top can do the work, is capable of doing the work. But it's like you said, it's having the right resources, the right people. I think could be qualified under that around you to be able to take it to that level, because you hear it all the time. It takes a village, it takes a team, but it really does because of the sacrifice that it takes. To be at that level. And so as you look forward to 2022, what's the goal, man? What have you guys outlined, and what are some things that you're looking forward to?
So I'm extremely excited for this next year. Being with Brute, being with a team that has done this and has the resources to get you to where you need. Like I said, it's more of a, you have the resources now, so it depends like what you do with them. But also, so tomorrow actually, I'll go in and I kind of hit on my shoulder issue I've had for a while. I'm getting a procedure done on my shoulder. It's not surgery, but I'm getting stem cells injected in there because I'm like, if I really want to chase, me watch that down. Like if we want to really chase this dream, like I gotta. It's been a handicap for me for a while, and I've been able obviously to manage and get through it, but to get to the very next level, like I think I just got to take the steps to give myself the best opportunity to try to just to heal it, man. And so anyways, I get that done tomorrow. So I'm excited for that. I heard a lot of good things on it from people. Like I haven't heard any bad things. I heard people like coming back with some crazy things on it. And so that'll be tomorrow. And so obviously and the thing is, what's nice about it's only a few months of kind of, it's not like a surgery where you're out for like a year kind of thing until you're back to 100%. It's a few months, therapy and all that. But that got me excited to like, hey, going into this 2022 season, having the possibility of having a healthy shoulder, like, I don't know, it gets me kind of fired up because that's always been something that's held me back. And so being able to go in it, like essentially a full overall athlete on it, at least like from a health standpoint, will be really excited, really excited. And I just can't get here soon enough. Like I said, I'm just we got the Open in February, so we got some time. But I think this off season, obviously me and Eldon, after testing, we've identified the weaknesses, and so that's what we're gonna be hammering. Those weaknesses for the next handful of months, and then we're gonna. I feel like once the Open's here, that's like you're in the season. So then it's just more of all your work you've done. Like you can get better, but like all that work you did in the off season is kind of solidified. Like now it's time to show what you've done.
I love it, dude. I think people are gonna really begin to know and recognize your name coming this season, and I mean it's impressive. I mean, as I was watching West Coast Classic, I mean I hadn't heard of you yet, and then and then obviously Elle put some things together for me, and I was like, wow, like it's just impressive, kind of your run. And I think anybody that listens to this is going to be pretty impressed with the run. It's man, it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited to be like reaching out when you're getting a ticket to the games, and we're doing this again. I mean, seriously. I mean, because I know you haven't said it, but no one's training this hard to get 13th place.
Yeah, and it's exactly. It's the week where I don't know. Talking with Els got me, excited. Like he's kicking my butt every day, but hey,
he does that. Trust me.
You're gonna reap what you sow. So it's it's gonna pay off one day. It's gonna pay off next year. Screw it. What am I being so? I need to be on the attack. I need to be more aggressive. Let's do it. Let's freaking go for it.
I love it, man. Well, is there anything you want to add before we jump off here?
Don't believe so, man. Thank you for doing this. It was cool. hopefully wasn't too much, like I said, of a train wreck after the first one. We'll get better. We'll get better here on out if we ever do it again. So.
Oh, we'll definitely do it again, and believe me, I'm not, and I'm early on the Matt Poulin train. Let me tell you, I'm early arrival. There's gonna be some people that are starting to reach out to you next year when they're like, "Who the f is this dude?" Like just jacking up the leaderboard. And then look, you can turn some heads. Obviously, you did that this year, but let me tell you, as I like to say, winning is the best revenge. So it's only a matter of time, my friend.
I need to hire you as my hype man. I need more of this. I need this around me.
Hype man, hey man,
I call you every day. Call you every day. Tell me I'm pretty again, please.
Look, you have my cell. You can text me anytime. I'll start sending you my
morning text.
Yeah.
Wake up, yeah. Please.
Mike, look, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna brand it right here. What is that to the 3 power? Micah's.
Third,
yeah, there you go. See, you're a math major. I'm not.
Yeah.
I can just talk. Micah's Monday morning motivation. It's got a good ring to it.
4 M's. The 4th power.
Okay. Clearly, I'm not good at math.
Well, unless I miscounted. It sounded like a lot of M's.
Micah's Monday morning. Yeah, it's definitely 4.
The motivation,
okay.
4. There you go.
All right. Well, all right, dude. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and we'll do it again soon. Okay.
Heck yeah. That sounds good, sir. All right.